we want everyone to know about this award, which we're giving you, and also the tremendous accomplishments that you have both made. Just to give a little history to the people out there, 16 years ago, my name is David Mazza, by the way. I'm the founder of the festival. And I drove down to Virginia and I met Peter and Thea for the first time and presented them with the idea of starting a music festival, which is going to be of many different genres. Now, one of the questions I never asked Peter was, what was going through your mind when I just suddenly showed up and asked you this question? Did you think, who is this nobody who just walked in the door and asked me to be the artistic director of a music festival?
Well, you actually came to a performance of the Virginia Opera
Yes.
in Fairfax, Virginia,
Right.
and I remember meeting in the hotel and you laid this out. And what I picked up was your passion for doing this, for sharing music and these other arts with your community. And I loved that.
Yeah. Well, I should say also in response to that, that in the years you were there, Peter, you know, the charisma and the energy that you gave was absolutely amazing throughout the year. The amount of work that you did to get this started and throughout the whole year, and we spent, you know, hours and hours and hours going over the setup, et cetera. I don't think anybody else would have given the passion that you gave. And also together with Thea, who I got to drive back and forth with to New York many times and learn a lot about composing, although I still have not composed any song. Now, one of the things, though, that I was very impressed with when I was down there for the first time was I saw you giving master classes at George Mason University. And because I'm a doctor, and I saw how you use the anatomical functions to explain things to singers. And I know now that you and Karen Fontes, who is a body alignment person, have now set up an opera class that is available on Zoom for anybody out there who wants to attend, be they opera singers or just musical theater singers. Can you tell me a little bit about this method that you use? Because that was one of the fascinating things that many people who attended the festival the first few years, when you gave master classes, were totally enthralled with.
Well, I guess I should start with the fact that I fell in love with opera early in life. First from recordings my parents brought home, like the Aida with Renato Tebaldi. And then I had the opportunity to sing for 3 years at New York's major opera companies, the New York City Opera, which was then at City Center, and the Old Metropolitan Opera for 3 years, which was on Broadway and 40th Street. And being in the children's chorus there, I was on stage with the world's greatest voices, and all the power of music was focused on a human story. So I was a trained violinist and violist by that time, and this introduced a level of human experience through opera that never left me, and that I decided to fulfill my life that way. And the essence of it is the human voice. What the human voice is capable of is something that is so moving. And it occurred to me what I'm doing now is teaching singers all over the world. A lot of them are in Mexico. I have one in Costa Rica, several on both coasts of the United States, on Zoom with someone, Karen Fontes, who is an expert at body alignment. She was trained as a singer and understands that your voice is your body, not just from the head up. And so we work together online on a website called operavoicebodywork.com. And it is something that I continue to develop. The essence of me running the Virginia Opera for 35 years was that early experience at the Metropolitan Opera, being as close as I am now to Thea, to the world's major voices. And then watching till the end of each opera as I finished my part on stage. I was shepherd boy in Tosca with Tebaldi, Warren, Leonard Warren, and Richard Tucker, and just countless fabulous singers. What I learned then, I found I'm able to convey increasingly well to singers of every type. We have opera singers for this opera site, but I've also coached actors in their speaking voice, gospel singers, country western singers, hip-hop singers. You know, everyone has a unique voice. The architecture that's inside your resonances is unique to you, and your physical habits are unique to you. But the principles of how you use your voice are the same, regardless of what genre you sing in. And that's what I really that's what I developed while I was there in those years at Buck Hill Skytop Music Festival through those classes. I began to codify and understand how to articulate the things that I had learned way back when I was 13, 14, and 15.
Yeah, no, I was really fascinated by watching you the first time I saw you at George Mason University doing one of these classes, and the fact that now, because of the technology of Zoom, you can afford this instruction to people all over the world, I think is absolutely fantastic. And
well, as you remember, I'm so hands-on. I had some questions about whether I could transfer all that to Zoom, and so is Karen, who has a studio in her apartment on the 15th floor of the Ansonia, which is where we live when we're not here in Los Angeles. So we've both adjusted to the technology of Zoom, and we find that this cuts the learning curve by several hundred%. It is so perfect to have both my ears and her eyes on the singers and to both give feedback. I love doing it. Still love it.
I think it gives the people listening to this the appreciation of how music and acting is a total body experience, and the skill that you have to attain and acquire is absolutely amazing. It's such a hard thing to have all going at the same time. So I just was totally fascinated, as were many of the audience members who came to your master classes when you first gave them the tennis tee.
I remember the reaction. Yeah. Well, you know, everyone has a voice, right, and learning how to use it is exciting for anyone,
right,
however they want to use it.
Right. And the other thing, just so people listening can appreciate, you were artistic director and conductor for the Virginia Opera Company for 35 years. You also raised money to start to renovate a building to make it the new Opera House, the Harrison Opera House in Norfolk, Virginia, which is a tremendous accomplishment. And you worked with tremendous singers like, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Renee Fleming, Diane Piero,
exactly. And I think you told me a story once where actually you convinced Renee Fleming to stay on as a singer when she was thinking actually of giving up.
Well, I hired her when she came back from Europe, where she was a scat singer. That's how she was earning her money.
Really?
And she did the rounds of opera auditions. She didn't have much on her resume then, and she was not the glamorous and secure person, an artist she is today. But right out of that audition, I heard such wonderful control of her voice. I offered her 3 roles at Virginia Opera, and she came for 3 seasons. And it is in the 3rd season that she got her opportunity to jump in as the Countess in Marriage of Figaro in Houston Grand Opera. I relieved her of her obligations with us for a week so she could go do that. And that's what started her international career. Thea actually conducted her in Mary Queen in
Christmas Carol.
A Christmas Carol.
Okay. I now want to focus a little bit of attention on your lovely wife of how many years is it? 40
It's
something?
about time.
How many, how many years is it that you've been together, married?
We,
50, well, I've lost count, 53, is it?
we're coming up for our 53rd wedding anniversary, but we've, of course, knew each other a year or
Yeah,
so before that.
exactly. So just to say a few words about Thea, Thea and I have something in common is that we both started medical school. She didn't, it's not because she failed, but because at the University of Edinburgh, she was next door to the to the music department where the medical school was located. And she went over there and she found that music was much more interesting, which I can appreciate a little bit. And at the same time, she has a wonderful quote where she says, I might as well do something that I love. And that's what it turned out she did. Now, she started after graduating from Edinburgh to study with Nadia Boulanger. Now, Thea, Nadia Boulanger, I know, is one of the famous musicologists of the 20th century. Can you tell us a little bit about her for people out there who don't know about her?
Well, I heard about her from my piano teacher, and then through her friends, got an introduction to go to Paris. I didn't know much about her at that point, but then when I got to Paris, luckily I spoke a little French because I had met some French friends at the boarding school that I was at, and was invited by them to go for a summer holiday on their chalet right on the lower mountain of Mont Blanc. And so that's why I learned la langue verte. In other words, I learned all the swear words and everything, and how to speak
The
French
green
to
language.
the green language, how to speak with ordinary people. So I didn't have to because Boulanger speaks very good English. But anyway, I wanted to speak with her in French. Anyway, I eventually arrived in Paris and studied with her for 4 years. And I saw her really almost every single week. I had my lesson with her for an hour every single week. Well, not for the summer holidays, but, virtually every week. It was absolutely fabulous. She also used to have what she called les mercredis, the Wednesdays. And the afternoon she would bring her students and visiting friends and musicians to talk and exchange ideas. And I met all sorts of people. So she took care of that as well. She was extraordinary. She also taught people that you will have heard of, like Aaron Copland and Elliott Carter, two of our great American composers. And so later on, after I came back from Paris, I decided it would be nice to go to America for the first time to study with Copland at Tanglewood, which I did. And that was very exciting. And I kept sort of in touch with him. In other words, when he came to London to conduct one of his places, I would often see him and so on. So that was really wonderful.
Yeah.
She is a great teacher.
Yeah, Nadia Boulanger is really the doyenne of composing teachers for the 20th century.
Yeah.
And
Right.
almost every great composer, even jazz composers, have studied with her.
Yeah. I advise people listening to this that if you go to Wikipedia and look her up and you see the list of people that trained with her, it's basically the major musical people of the 20th century. So
Yeah.
I just find it fascinating that you spent 4 years with her, and then you went on to have this tremendous career, not only as a composer, but also a teacher. You taught at Queen's College, I believe, and you also...
That was much later.
Yeah, and you also...
But I have to tell you something. The one thing that really helped me was that composers have to get to know performers. As if you write plays, you have to get to know actors and actresses. A play doesn't exist without them. My music doesn't exist without performers. And one absolutely fabulous thing that happened was that the BBC in Scotland, the orchestra, the BBC Scottish Orchestra, would play works of beginners like me and other young composers, to give them a chance to hear their work and to learn from it. You know, that's very difficult for a young composer to get an orchestra to play their work. Because who's this young composer? How do we know this? The BBC did that. It was absolutely wonderful. And I remember I had a great conductor who was actually had been a clarinet player and was just beginning to be a great conductor, Colin Davis. Later on, he conducted all over the world and became very, very famous. But in those beginnings, he was kind of beginning his career as a conductor. So that was fabulous.
Yeah, I think that certainly looking at the body of work that you've had composed over all these years is absolutely mind-boggling. And I just want people listening to appreciate that you are 96 years old. I'm sorry. When I was a kid, my mother would have hit me if I told a woman's age. But anyway, at this point.
No, we're proud of it.
Right, exactly. It's something you definitely should be proud of. But certainly you have all the major orchestras of the world have played your pieces, the concertos for horn, for clarinet, etc.
And viola.
And viola, yes.
And viola.
Yeah, I know. And you also compose 10 full operas and also many chamber operas. And the amazing thing is that I just went to about 2 months ago where there was a soiree given at a loft in Soho where you presented your last opera that you composed called Orlando, which is based on the book by Virginia Woolf. So at the age of 96, you just completed an opera, and which will soon have its premiere, hopefully here in New York. And the other thing, just as an aside, I know we're all going to London in February to see your Mary Queen of Scots performed in London, which has had many performances throughout the United States, several years in a row. The other thing is just in terms of the awards, so people appreciate what you've done. I know you've got 2 Guggenheim Fellowships. You have you got the Queen's Medal in 2018 for music.
For music.
The music.
Right. And you got the Ivors Award, which is the equivalent, the English equivalent of the Grammy Award. And you also got the British Commander of the Empire, is that right? From the
Something like that.
Yeah.
CBE at the Queen's Honors.
Yeah.
Queen's
That
Honors,
CBE is a commander of the British Empire.
Right.
But I'd like to tell you a little bit about the Queen's Medal for Music.
Yeah, I'd like to see what it's like to
quite recent.
Yeah.
Because it was only sort of invented, I think, by Peter Maxwell Davies, wonderful composer, when he was master of the Queen's music, probably about 20 years ago, something like that, but fairly recent. And what it meant was that I don't know who makes the decisions, who the Queen chooses how she chooses the person who would get this award. But anyway, somebody chooses the person, and that person, so it's one person every year, and you get this award, and you then are in touch with the palace when you're free. So I had to find out when I was next going to be in London and what dates and what date the Queen would be free, and arrange for a time when I could actually go to Buckingham Palace and meet the Queen alone for half an hour. Or was it an hour? I can't remember. But, you know, it was incredible. Judith Weir sat in as a kind of chaperone. She is now the Queen, master of the Queen's music. And so she was there, but it was really just a private conversation between the Queen and me. I mean, imagine. It was extraordinary.
Yeah, no, it just sounds, I just can't imagine.
And one of the serious subjects we discussed, I can't tell you, I'm not supposed to talk about it, was the difference between the left coast and the right coast of countries. So California versus New York and so on.
She knew all about that.
She knew all about it.
Okay, so she was up there. Yeah. What was her age when you met with her?
Well, Thea was 90, and she was probably 92 or 93.
Yes, we're almost the same age, but she's tiny. She's tiny, 5'2".
When you see the picture, Thea towers over her.
No, I think we're going to show that picture. That she looks like she's has some problems with growth, but
she's extraordinary. She was all there, and absolutely extraordinary. It's one of the great privileges of my life.
Yeah, I just want to say that also that for both of you and your work ethic and your ability to create into the years, Peter, you're younger than Thea, I know, but I think it's an inspiration to anybody listening, and especially you, Thea, at the age of 96 to just complete an opera, I think is absolutely amazing and monumental. So
she's a role model for all of us.
Yeah, exactly.
It keeps me out of mischief.
The Orlando an Escapade, based on Virginia Woolf, that she just completed, represents 549 pages of full score with every instrument and every singer written out.
Yeah. I know Thea actually showed me, I went into her studio, how she writes it by hand. And
I'm the last person on the planet who doesn't use this new system, which is called Sibelius, which all composers use now. On your computer, you can write in the music, and then you kind of hear it as you go. And it was just coming in when I was teaching. So I said to my students, you know, you really need to learn this. I think it will be very helpful for you. I'm not going to do it because I'm just too old. But I said, watch out. It won't really teach you how to orchestrate, even though you're writing it and you kind of hear it. An orchestra, a live orchestra, doesn't function in quite the same way as a thing on the computer does. So you do have to learn a few things at the same time to stay with it.
I remember one night there when we were driving back to New York from Buck Hill, and you were telling me how when you compose, you don't pound the notes out on a piano or anything else. You do it in your head. And I said, how's that possible? And I remember you said to me, it always will stick with me, that music is a language. So if you know a language, you know how to speak it or write it. And I just found that absolutely fascinating. So anyway, I just want to say that nothing gives me more pleasure, and I don't think anybody is more deserving than you two, who are not only two of my closest friends, but also people I love dearly, than to present you with the Pocono Mountains Music Festival Lifetime Achievement Award for 2024 on the 15th anniversary of our founding. So again, thank you so much for taking us on.
So grateful to you for that. And I just want to say that you welcomed us both to the festival, and we had a fabulous time in both communities there, made a lot of friends, and those were very, very happy summers in our life.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad you awarded this to both of us, because Thea has been phenomenal for me, and we've been together and had so many interesting journeys together. She wrote a viola concerto for me. Early in our marriage, we went on tour where I played viola, she played piano, and we've basically known each other's work in a way that we could help each other and could understand what the other needs. And from that, we are so much stronger and more generous with our music making, because we have that foundation of the two of us, which has been fabulous.
No, it's a true loving partnership. It's just absolutely amazing, and I'm so glad I got to be a part of your life. So again, thank you so much, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah.
Thank you, David.
Okay, bye.